we'd make it to the fire's edge and we'd run into some kind of topography that we couldn't get through, or the fire would blow right past us. I know numerous times my operator would be like, I have fire out my window, and I'd look out and you'd see the glow, and I'd be like, I have fire out my window too.
Unfortunately, in October, as we led into October 5th and 6th, you have a lot of vegetation on the ground. You have dry conditions. We've had frost, so things are dry. They're easily consumed. There's a lot of vegetation, and there's a lot of activity on the ground too with harvest and people out. Knowing what was in store for us in October, the North Dakota Forest Service, DES, all the planning agencies, North Dakota National Guard, Governor's Office, started to talk and visit and hold weekly meetings to prepare.
So coming off of that weekend of September 29th, we kind of got together and decided that it probably would be a good idea to put a draft governor's fire declaration in place and send it up to the governor's office, which they signed on October 3rd.
And the governor's declaration, what that did for us is it activated the state emergency operations plan, and it made all state agency resources available in the event we needed them based on what their roles and responsibilities are in the fire annex.
Our largest fires are wind-driven. They're high-intensity, short-duration, wind-driven events. And with the weather outlook for that weekend, it was the bullseye for this. This really could be it.
And so that weekend, the North Dakota Forest Service did staff some of their engines and pre-position them for the weekend. We did get authorization to place a National Guard Blackhawk and crew on a 2-hour call standby for that Saturday in the event they were needed.
I think as we went into October 4th, we had a good plan for the 5th, what we thought we were going to deal with. We had those pieces in place. We had some resources pre-positioned across the state, and really we're planning, as early as 5 in the morning, starting to put that plan in effect for what we thought we were going to see.
Our watch center is staffed 24/7, so the watch officer called me around 2 o'clock in the morning, indicated he'd gotten a report of a fire near Arnegard. And with the winds, the way that they were calling for additional resources to include North Dakota Forest Service. And shortly after I arrived, we gotten another report of a fire over by Charleston. They were requesting North Dakota Forest Service resources on that one as well. And then shortly on the heels of that one, there was a fire reported near Grassy Butte.
We got in for a shift change, and the person I took over for said, we have 3 fires going right now, but they're dropping pins for people who've been evacuated, places they've stopped at, so didn't think anything of it. And then 911 started rolling in of fire here, fire here, fire here. And then it was paging out every fire truck they had. And
I came in at 7 in the morning. Travis and Amy are here, and they're 3 fires deep.
When we got the call at 2 o'clock in the morning on Saturday, it was 0001. We pulled into that fire. We knew it was a firestorm, just like Ryan said. We pulled into the smoke, couldn't see anything at all, ended up driving into the fire, and I am one of those guys that had that feeling. I've been doing this since 1997. That's a very uncomfortable feeling. When I pulled out, I knew it was time for an all-call. I called the all-call.
All the departments around were coming to our rescue. Billings County, Dunn County, Williams County, there was a little bit of everybody. Montana, Sydney, Fairview Fire, they were all there. So it was a group effort. I can't tell you how proud I am of those guys. They're just amazing. Mandarin and Newtown, they were out in full force. Just everybody was.
Got a call from Ryan in the morning, started mobilizing. They were first out the door, so I kind of started to pick the pieces together and get a lot of people called and in. Ended up calling Kindred from the task force, and I was really thankful Rich answered the phone at like 4:30 in the morning. I was like, thank you for answering your phone, because we definitely need some help.
He had said, hey, things are starting to happen. Get me a crew and move out to Bismarck. So, we packed up, moved out to Bismarck. We no more than got there, got fuel in the truck, rehabbed the truck a little bit from travel time, and then sat down to eat something, and then we ended up heading up to Garrison right away. right out of the gate.
Through the State Emergency Operations Center, through the MHA and 3 affiliated tribes, and some of the resources that we were bringing in, we had a strike team, so 5 engines out of the state of Washington show up that we could start deploying. We had activated the state wildland task force, so we had some local fire departments that we were deploying out. We had the 2 crews from New Mexico up.
The conditions were absolutely extreme. You're talking about high winds, smoke, dirt in the air. Extraordinary. I can't even envision a more dangerous scenario. And when you talk to local firefighters, it was spooky for them. There were people that were absolutely concerned for their lives in fighting the fire because you couldn't see. At times it was difficult to communicate. It was difficult to see the road because of the smoke. They knew that they weren't dealing with a small fire. They were dealing with an absolute gigantic fire.
The duty officer watch center called me and let me inform me about the big fire in Arnagard. I raced down here. I filled my vehicle, my squad, with water. I filled it with all the extra batteries because I have extra batteries for all the radios because I just swap them out with the guys. And thought of anything else. I can't even tell you what I brought, but I just filled my car and took off. The wind was blowing so bad when I got to the gate over here. I have to take this off to let myself in. And I opened the door and it whacked the thing and broke my door handle right off. That's how bad the wind was out here.
Sustained gusts were in that 70-mile-an-hour range, and they just wouldn't let up. It was just that continually throughout that morning.
When I got there, it was just a wall of smoke, and we couldn't see beyond really even our hood of our vehicle.
I was up in the fire, in the smoke. I couldn't see anything at all. I couldn't see 5 feet in front of me. So I had my phone out with the map open, so I was just watching the blue dot that's showing me where I was at so I didn't drive into a slough or a rock pile or anything.
At one point I had my phone out and was using Google Maps satellite image to direct us because you had zero visibility. You couldn't see past your windshield.
When you got that high of winds, you got all the ash and dust that's blowing around, it gets to be pretty surreal and pretty scary because you're driving down these roads and you can't see. And you just got to hope that there's no heavy equipment or other vehicle coming your way. Fortunately, law enforcement was on the scene and keeping people away. But, going through those type of areas, it gets spooky.
You were just driving blind. I mean, that's the best way to describe it is put a blindfold on your face and say go. So on the highways we can use the rumble strips to kind of guide us a little bit. The gravel roads are a little bit more difficult.
I remember at one point I was on Highway 22 and I watched the fire come out of the Bear Den Coulee, and I was hoping that Highway 22 would stop it. And then it topped up and it just seemed like somebody turned the fan on, because as soon as it hit those tops, that smoke just laid down. I couldn't see the road and I just watched this glow. And when it hit Highway 22, it didn't even slow down, just went right across.
I think I had in one spot 5 passes wide, so it was about 150 feet. I turned around and watched, and where I'd just been making those passes, and the fire was just rolling through 150 feet of fire guard. And when it burns a soybean field and a lentil field with nothing to burn, and it's just moving across burning whatever is there and it's not stopping, that is insane, for lack of a better terms.
I had never experienced wind like that, let alone trying to fight a fire in wind like that. I mean, it was apocalyptic.
Eventually, at one point, I paged out fire, and they just radioed in saying, "We have no more fire trucks left in the county. They are all out. They're all fighting fires. We're just going to have to position trucks different places and try to knock them down."
When we have a fire event going on, each event has its own kind of little icon on the map, but to see the map just literally layered with fire markers, and then the next layer was the little blue pens that we put on the map. When you see all that in the big picture, it was just, at times it was overwhelming to see just how many marks were on our map. Like if you scrolled out just a little bit too far, like you weren't really seeing anything because it was just a blur of markers over the top of markers over the top of markers.
I just remember doing that last page, and then no sooner did I finish the page, and the incident commander came across and calm. He said, just so you know, keep paging these out, but I don't have any fire trucks left in the county. I'm gonna have to move them around, but we'll get there.
Got home, and as I was pulling into the yard, one of our friends who's on the Watford City Rural Volunteer Department said, you know, we're up here at the Wolf Place, which is JJ and Patty Wolf, our neighbors just to the west of us, and he said it's going to get by us and we don't have any resources.
Tying in with 3 affiliated tribes, their fire management officer, he kind of said, hey, we're just going to protect homes at this point. So we came down in, pulled in to a farmstead. There was a couple homes on that. Fire was pretty aggressive fire behavior, making a push at it. I had 2 trucks with me. We split up, and I said, hey, are you guys comfortable with this home? And they said, yeah, we're good. My operator, Aaron, and I were headed to another one, which I thought was going to be pretty defensible.
We have to pick what we can protect and what we have to let go. So all those conversations are happening in that engine. What do we think we can protect? How long do we hold on to this spot before we make sure we protect the others? It's a reality that weighs heavy on you. It's not a light decision, but they have to be made, and you have to have a pre-prep plan. So there's a lot of that happening in that engine.
As we anchored in there, we knew we were probably not going to be able to leave once we decided that this is the home we were going to protect. So we were hoping to catch it as it came up out into the yard. That was quickly averted as I was banging on the window of the truck saying we need to get out of here. So we spun the truck around. We were able to get back to the driveway against the garage of the home, kind of parked the truck that it was as protected as we could from the oncoming flaming front, and we started pulling some hoses. But you could only stand, it seemed like 30-40 seconds before you just had to go back and kind of crouch behind the house.
And the local ranchers were out there help supporting us too, and it kind of hits you in the heart a little bit when you get a local rancher that comes up and he goes, can you do anything in your power to save this section of grass here? He goes, it's all I got left. It's all I got left.
The rest of the ranch had burned up.
So we got lucky and we're able to hold that. But, you know, so it's, when you look at it from the standpoint, you think, well, it's just grass, but when it's a rancher's livelihood, you know, and every day he was out there on his watching his land. So kind of takes it personal on your side just to watch it and try to help them out as much as you can.
So during the fire, aviation was a big thing. We had the Blackhawks, we had the bombers, we had the scoopers. That first day, we were dealing with 50, 60 mile an hour winds. So really the bombers were about our only option.
Yeah, so when we were using the large air tankers, the first night and into the second day, you know, those aircraft are a lot bigger aircraft. They could fly in some of the more nasty winds that we had, and they were dumping a retardant, which is a mixture of almost like a mud and water, and it essentially paints the fuels, and it just slows the fire growth.
It got within a half mile of us, and through the federal resources, they dropped a couple fire lines by airplane. I still remember Officer D'Angelo grabbed me by the shoulders and said, take a breath. We've got this.
Ryan was able to get air resources from other states, from other fires. We had air resources moved from other fires in other states and moved and diverted to North Dakota.
They were really negotiating with the other fires on aviation resources. So we were fortunate, and also our personnel they really stepped up, and they were able to justify, you know, why we needed them first.
They decide nationally what fires are important and who gets what based off of threat and risk and values at risk and all those things. And, you know, North Dakota on the night of October 5th and 6th, was getting everything that we asked for. It was great to see. It's never a good thing to see as you're receiving those resources, because it means you're having a bad day.
We very rarely get the air tankers in North Dakota. Those are generally used on fires farther west, Montana, Wyoming, Utah, California. You see them a lot. We rarely get those in North Dakota, and this is the first time that I can remember seeing a water scooper ever sent to North Dakota.
That's the first time I've seen planes like that. I mean, I've seen National Guard before, but I'd never seen the scoopers in, and I'd never seen the big planes either. So, you know, for me, that was a new experience.
So in the last 45 years, it was the largest emergency aviation response that I've ever seen, and I've been flying in North Dakota since 1980.
I went to feed everybody. We took a half hour and all the fire departments congregated, and the lieutenant talked to the chief and talked to me on, I think it's time. I said, that's all I needed to hear. And that's when I called the watch center. I said, okay, we need the guard and we need them ASAP. This isn't getting any better. So they hung up the phone and went to work.
And that's when we began our offensive fight. I like to call it the smart offense. And we hit them with the manpower on the fire line, and then drops yesterday out of 2 MH-60s. Those Black Ops dropped 59 different specific drops with 39,000 pounds of water, and then we got to ask for more manpower, and that's when we started calling in our guardsmen from all over the state. And by Sunday morning, the crews that were on alert had been planning to go as soon as the winds went low, and we got them launched Sunday morning, as well as brought in the manpower forces, our red card carriers, who just a few weeks ago, as guardsmen, got 4 days of red card training, and then were called to do it, and they were all here, lined up, mustered at 0700, and we're out the door a short time later.
Me and my brother were both in the same unit. We ended up getting on the engine with the Forest Service when on that fire, and we got to actually suppress some flanks, get a little bit of flame out.
At that point, we just had to tie in with the IC of the fire, and once we got tied in, everything went pretty smooth. We got the Washington guys putting out flank. My brother and I rode in the engine with 2 of the Forest Service guys, and we were putting out flank.
So they were able to bring up some resources from us to help, again, securing what we call mopping up the fire line. So we were able to get them out and do a whole bunch of good work to make sure that the fires that we had on the landscape weren't going to come out.
In September, we went and did this 40-hour course, but never would I have thought the next month later we would have been called to action.
Over the weekend, just about everyone in the community was a volunteer firefighter. The stories that are coming out of citizens stepping in, risking their own lives, their own equipment to save their neighbors, to save their neighbor property, it's truly remarkable.
We would take calls from farmers saying, I have my plow and I'm headed to this intersection, and they would just start plowing up ground to help create a fire line to break it.
On the north side of the fire, we didn't have a real heavy presence that first day, but there was a couple of ranchers that were on that side, on the north side of Bear Den Coulee, that were out with their discs, and they were putting in fire breaks, trying to keep it herded into Bear Den Coulee.
We have neighbors west of the farm that they were gone when the fire hit, and their place would have burned if there were 2 friends from town that went out and saved their place.
The ag community stepped up with equipment, tractors and discs and so on. They were all over helping out with the fire crews. Water haulers showed up. They brought in water tankers to help service the fire trucks.
Working that fire down in Rough Creek with a local, and he was just a local rancher. Never met him before in my life, and then I spent 2 days with him. Just me and him and the guy on our engine, just, you know, controlling line down there, and it's just really unique to see. It was a local guy. He actually wasn't even burning on his ranch. He had a ranch 15 miles to the north, and he's like, hey, I just wanted to come down and help.
Yeah, there was a lot of local operators, dozers that were owned locally, the ranchers, especially those first nights. They're putting in line and doing everything they can.
I think that's probably one of the things I've noticed in this state is how many farmers are willing to risk their life and their equipment to drop what they're doing and go out and help their fellow neighbors and farmers in a time of need like that. It was pretty incredible to listen to it all go down.
I mean, we've dealt with blizzards and stuff like that and lost a few calves here or there, but nothing like that fire was for myself. My dad lost some, and other people, you know, losing horses or pigs or 4-H animals and stuff. Yeah, it was kind of a kick to the guts, I guess.
My heart just went out for Ray when I heard about what happened up there. And, you know, we did lose one home on the fire. Happened to be my first cousin, and they had just built the home. It was on my my uncle's homestead.
The fire behavior was such at an intensity that it was, I use the word moonscaping, but essentially a lot of times a fire will come through and impact a tree or impact a tree row, and you'll get some burning of the foliage, you'll get some burning of the bark, things like that. But that tree's got a good chance of potentially surviving. You know, on the back side of this, when you would look down into a draw, there would just be like little candlesticks, what I call candlesticks, just little, maybe a little standing 6, 8, 10-foot chunk of a tree, no branches, no nothing, just looks like a matchstick that was burnt and stuck in the ground.
We lost all of our summer grass for next year, this spring, so we should be going to grass within the next 6 weeks. We won't be. We'll be feeding hay through all of that. We've had friends that have stepped up, or offered, not stepped up, offered out of the area to take cows for us. But if we didn't have those offers, we would either be buying hay, which triples your daily cost of carrying that cow, or we would be selling.
This year, them pastures won't get used because, I mean, there's nothing there, and moisture situation is dry around here, so, I mean, even with some good timely spring rains, it's going to be end of July, August, September, you know, even if you could put cows in there, and if you could, I mean, you only carry at 30-40% capacity, so, I mean, you can maybe use it as a fall deal, and that's about it.
It would be nice to be able to put a dollar value on what we lost, but you don't know. You don't know how it's going to affect anything. Now that the ground is, there's nothing to hold the snow cover and nothing to keep the water that's in the top layer of the soil from evaporating.
The grass will probably be the first to come back when we do finally get moisture. I hope it's soon because we have erosion now that, you know, it's a fragile geology, and there's a lot of blowing sand now and dunes, you know, sand dunes and that kind of thing. So it's a dead land.
Our thoughts and prayers to those that have been impacted significantly. There's some people that lost almost everything, and many that lost a lot. So let's not forget about them, and I know that this community, as other communities around here, will be rallying around and helping those. I already know of situations where neighbors are stepping up and helping these people.
We had people donate hay to us, take it out of their own stock, their own, you know, for all they know, they could have a fire a month from now, but they showed up with, you know, some horse hay, some high quality horse hay, because now we're dry lotting horses that are normally out grazing, and horses need higher quality hay than cows do. So we just had people show up with, they showed up, they offered, and even this year, and we will be using some of those offers for grass for this summer, because we don't have it.
I heard a story where there were firefighters that went into a convenience store to get some food, and the owner or whoever was behind the cashier said, "Take what you need." And then was places where the locals would bring meals to firefighters and just universally thankful for their work. Again, that does not happen everywhere.
Just the community support. I mean, they were glad we were there, and they were willing to do whatever it took to make it as easy for us as they could. That was awesome.
It really showed what a small community can do. We had a group of ladies that came in and they were up. I mean, our briefings were at 7 o'clock in the morning, and so you had to be feeding them by 6 to get 100 plus people fed within an hour, and then to go to briefing. So they were getting up 4:30 in the morning, cooking them breakfast, making sack lunches, and just making sure that everything was ready.
I had steak dinner, I had home cooked lasagna, I had, and that was all done by the local community, just coming in and supporting the firefighters who was there. It really fills your heart, you know, back up after having really tough couple days of doing stuff like that.
They took great pride in feeding the firefighters, and they made sure, I've been to a lot of fires, I've never been fed like that. The food that we had was phenomenal. And then in the school, once we moved to the gym, it didn't take long, and every classroom had posters hanging in the gym for us. When we got done at the gym, we got thank you cards handed to us by seniors of their high school, and it was just huge that they could do that. And we respected their space too. They had a volleyball game they really wanted to have, so we made sure we took all our cots down and made sure the gym was cleaned out so they could have their volleyball game. And that support from them was just huge that way. Made a big difference to us.
Yeah, our volunteer fire departments are absolutely amazing. The first responders, and every fire in North Dakota, the volunteer fire departments are first on the ground. They do amazing work. They get trained really well. They take their jobs very seriously. They leave their families and their loved ones to protect the lives and the livelihoods of others. So huge debt of gratitude to those folks. They're absolutely amazing.
I'm just always amazed. I'm just speechless by the level of volunteerism and the sacrifice that is made by both our local individuals and also the employers that employ them. They have to support the effort too.
But I don't believe we do enough for volunteer fire departments. We ask more and more of them every day in their job description. It's harder to find people to join fire departments, especially in our little tiny towns, but they're so critical. And in all my years, it's a brotherhood I've never seen in my life. It's so strong.
I saw some stats the other day. North Dakota is the second in the nation for volunteer firefighters, 92%. Nebraska is the only one that beats us at 92.2%. So you see a lot of the same faces and a lot of the same people, knowing that those working relationships are still there.
Volunteers don't get paid to do these things, and it was a full 2 week, you know, working from 7 in the morning till 8, 9 at night, and you know, just being out on the fire and the heat and the dust. And
I always close with the thank you for your time and your talents, and then to thank their spouses, because their spouses and their kids sacrifice just as much, if not more, because they're not there. You know, they're here training with us, they're here on a call, they're here doing this.
Rural North Dakota, rural America, you're protected by volunteers. They don't get paid to do what they do. When they're out helping you protect your property and your livelihood, it's not for compensation, it's not a career, it's them volunteering their services for their community. They parked outside of our basement door and slept in their truck to defend if that fire broke through somehow or the wind changed in the middle of the night, and they did that 2 nights for us. Meanwhile, they both have children at home, they both have wives at home, and they slept in their trucks for us. And so I wouldn't have been able to sleep if they hadn't been.
You know, as we say, the volunteers that are amazing in North Dakota, they run towards the emergencies, they run towards the fire instead of running away from it. And that's what saved our communities, saved homes, saved lives this past weekend.
They all were working toward one thing, and that was protecting people, protecting livelihoods, protecting their lives and homes. Firefighters don't consider themselves heroes, but Some of us do. Some of the rest of us do.